Now, we have the bag. We have an open end on both sides. We only need one side with an open end. So now we need to go ahead and make the bottom. Remember I put this aside, this little piece we trimmed off, and I said we're going to use it. This is where we're going to use it. So, again, my circle, 7 inches across. So I'm going to cut three 7-inch strips. This right here is only 3 inches by, well, however long you need to make it by. So I'm going to make it 7-inch strips. So, line up my edge, get my 7-inch mark. Do cut. It's one 7-inch piece. Come back here, find my 7-inch mark. Do another cut. And then this should be 7 inches as well. Remember, this came off a 21-inch piece, so we should have 3 7-inch long pieces. Now I'm going to go ahead and sew them together along the long seam. And this, I only have to have a 1/4 inch seam, so it's not that big of a deal. So, and I won't back stitch here, I'll just stitch straight across. I'll take the other section, right sides together, line up my edges, and just straight stitch straight down. Trim off my threads. So then I have this nice little piece right here, and I'm going to press it. So, ironing board out, and my iron has been unplugged, so I'll plug that in. While we're waiting for the iron to heat up, I'll go ahead and spritz. Water. I'll finger press down the seams here while I'm waiting for the iron to warm up. That way it'll be less work when I put the iron down.
Understood.
I'm more forgiving if I mess up. Okay. Give it another minute. Alright, let's try out that iron. Ah, there we go. I'm going to flip it over, press the front, since I have the back pressed. And usually at this time I'd go ahead and get my lining bag circle pressed and cut too, but I haven't gotten to the lining yet, so we'll just do that when we get to the lining. Alright, so we have it pressed. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of my iron so I have room to work here. I'm going to go ahead and set this down and get my stencil. Set my stencil, line it up with the edges, then take my pencil. And if you notice, it goes all the way to the edges on 3 sides. So I'm going to take my pencil and sort of draw around the edges if it'll let me. Let me go ahead and sharpen this. Nice sharp tip. Make sure my edges are still there. Okay, so now I have my circle,
Headcom 716.
stencil. Now I'm going to cut it out. Doesn't have to be perfect, don't have to cut on the line, just make sure you got a rudimentary rough circle shape.
You can show the rescue though to be en route to.
I'm a perfectionist, so I will cut almost directly on the line. But if you don't, that's okay too. Go ahead and do the best you can. So there we have that cut out. We're ready to use it. So, move my iron out of the way. And I'm going to get the bottom section. I know it's the bottom section because I can see my pockets through the bottom. If it was the top section, all you'd see the stripes. See, that's all you see. So get the bottom section. And right sides together. You have to remember that. So here's my right side. I'll stick it inside here, inside the actual bag. Put my right sides together, right here, and line up a little bit of the edge. Doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be square, just try to get it as close as you can. Then take your sewing machine and get that little section that you just lined up under the sewing machine and try to get it a 1/2 inch seam allowance. It's not going to be perfect. If you get 1/2 inch, it's going to be great. Okay. And I see I keep flipping the bag so my seams will continue to line up. If I didn't do that, it would be harder to line up your seams to get them straight because you're sewing around a circle. And sometimes it takes practice, but once you get it, you know what you have to do. And a lot of it is take your time. Then it's not so hard to match your seams and we're coming around. When you come to the end where you started, you shouldn't have any kind of gaps or overlaps or anything like that. But if you do, well, let's just say you shouldn't have any, really. I mean, if you notice this, as I'm doing this here, if you can see, as I go, as long as I have a 1/2 inch seam allowance, this should be just nice and smooth all the way to the end. Now, if you've gone in a little bit, like 1/4 of an inch rather than 1/2 inch, well, you're not gonna have, you're gonna have some kind of a gap or a bunch. But if you follow that 1/2 inch seam allowance, then you notice that I'm just now coming into my beginning stitch. I'm going to back stitch here. And clip my thread. And I'll show you now. So you look around there, there's no overlaps, no gaps, no bunches, no nothing, just a straight stitch all the way around. This is the seam for the where we stitch the bag all the way up. So okay, so now this is inside out, that's going to stay inside out. I'm going to go ahead and stop this film here, and I'll continue the inside of the bag in just a few minutes.